Welcome to the West County ACA Speaker Series, recorded in St. Louis, Missouri. We meet every Thursday as a literature discussion, and the first week of the month is our ACA Speaker Meeting. Speakers are asked to share their story and one tool they find most useful in their ACA recovery. If you'd like to contact us, email westcounty@acastl.org. We hope you enjoy.
Thanks, Justin. My name's Ron, and I'm a fellow traveler.
Hey, Ron.
Josh, thanks a lot for asking me to speak. I'll try to make this quick. My favorite tool, I thought actually when Josh asked me to speak, he was calling me his favorite tool. But in reality, he wanted me to talk about my favorite tool. And for me, the Steps Workbook is my favorite tool, probably because I use it the most. But I'll back up a little bit and talk about how I found ACA and my background in ACA, limited though it may be, and why I think this is my favorite tool. I was in 2017, I was going to go to a meeting, an ACA meeting. It was just starting up, and three of my friends were starting this meeting. It was on a Sunday night at 6:30, and I was just going to support them. But the meeting starts at 6:30, and I'm not used to going to meetings at 6:30. I think they're all starting at 7, so I show up a little bit before 7, so I was late. So, you know, the stuff that we read before the meeting starts, to include the laundry list, I didn't hear because I was late. And then after the meeting, by the way, there was like 25 people there. They didn't need my support, but whatever. After the meeting, one of my buddies came up and showed me the laundry list. And so like I'm just there to support these friends of mine. And I start reading the laundry list, and I noticed that a lot of them didn't really resonate, because like the first one, when it talks about authority figures, I wasn't afraid of authority figures. I became one. I was an approval seeker. I was frightened by personal criticism, so I made sure that I was never criticized. But when we got down into like 11 and 12, 11, I had very low sense of self-esteem. And then in 12, what really convicted me was the passage in number 12 where it says, "I will do anything to hold on to a relationship." Now that does, and that's the one that convicted me. That's the one who got me into ACA. And that doesn't mean that I was clingy or anything like that. I just don't recognize and make the effort to get out of relationships when they're gone astray, and personal or professional. So that was me, and so I just started coming back. And so that particular meeting reads this yellow book every week. And they read a few pages, and they go through some questions. And anybody that's familiar with this yellow book knows that there's a discussion about the step, but there's a bunch of questions at the end of this discussion. And that's why I really like this yellow book, because I'd had a little bit of experience with other 12-step programs, and I knew that the steps were very, very important. They were really prominent in my life. But when I go to the ACA 12 steps, I read that we admitted we were powerless over the effects of alcoholism. Well, if I have the effect of alcoholism, I feel as though one of the more effective tools that alcoholism presents is denial. So how can I know about the effects of alcoholism if I'm in denial? I mean, there's no way I know it. I don't know what I don't know, right? So the beauty of this particular book, and this, the way it's designed, is it helps me in the questions at the end of the chapters. It helps me understand what the effects of alcoholism were on me in my family of origin, and how they are present today, and informs me of how I react in certain situations, if I'm honest. And these are things, again, that I learned at a very, very early age. And I'm not here to criticize anybody. I'm not criticizing my family. I'm not into that. All I know is that I'm here and I belong. And there's a lot of things that I do on a daily basis that I've been doing ever since I was this tall, to get by in this little clan or this little tribe or whatever you want to call it. I don't get kicked out of the clan when I'm this high, this tall. So I guess I learned at a very early age, if I made mom mad, then I'm not going to get fed. If I get thrown out of this group, the wolves are going to eat me or whatever. So I did whatever I had to do. But I don't know it. I don't know it because for me, I don't know, it's hard to describe. For me, it's like fibrous. I mean, it is me. And it's caused me problems. Those survival skills I developed at a very, very early age are really impediments for me today to have a healthy, sane relationships and a life. So I'll give you an example. So page 30, here's one of the questions. Because if I look at the steps and I read the steps, for me they're very conceptual. So I really need some way, and this happens to be a tool for me, to break down that concept into concrete, actionable items and discoveries specifically about me and how I am and how I act and how I react. For instance, here's one that got me. So here's one of the questions and this comes after the end of step 1, and it's headed unmanageable, and there's several questions about unmanageability, and one of them is, what does it mean to be codependent? Well, that's a term I've thrown around for decades, and I don't know that I can define it, to tell you the truth. I really don't. If I sit down and say, well, what does codependent mean? It's like, and it's hard for me to describe. Well, in my case, I'm not astute enough to listen to people or, do these readings and look at these questions and come up with answers on my own. And so I think an antidote to denial is when we are in community and we're talking about this stuff. All of a sudden, when you all start talking and answering these questions, they become clear to me. Things become clear to me. I'm sitting here reading this question in a meeting, and it's like, I got nothing, right? But then you all start talking, and all of a sudden I understand, and I've heard, because I've made notes, one description was, if I unzip myself, the other person steps in. One guy quoted this Bradshaw guy about not being able to access my internal clues as to what I want and what I need. And then another one was, I'm dependent on you to be dependent on me. And the last one was, and this is one that I wrote, because of all these things that are being said as a result of this question in this tool. And I wrote, others' needs dictate my needs, and their moods dictate my moods. And so if you're happy, I'm happy. If you're not, I'm not. It's just an ongoing thing. And the other example I'll point out is on the next page, actually. Am I in denial about my controlling behavior? Well, I'm sitting around, I'm thinking, when I read this question the very first time, I'm better at it now, but the very, very first time I read this question, it's like, I'm not controlling. Why? So, I have this denial about me, right? I mean, it's on board. I mean, I came into, as a little kid, adolescent, became an adult with denial on me. I mean, in my belief, my attitude is that if I'm around alcoholism, I'm going to get some on me. And the longer I'm around it, the more I get on me, right? So if denial is part of alcoholism, the longer I'm around alcoholism, the more denial I have, and the more fibrous it becomes. So when I read, am I in denial about my controlling behavior, my question is, what controlling behavior? Well, as it turns out, I'm listening to people talk about this stuff in a meeting. And this is what I'm talking about, like these questions allow me to get very, very granular about what this all means, okay? So here's what I came up with, and this is almost like embarrassing to admit, honestly. I don't think I'm controlling, but I'll be the first to admit that didn't know it at the time, I would be guilty of occasional manipulation, and it's not like real serious stuff, And I'll give you an example. I mean, this like, I'm sitting in a meeting and all of a sudden this dawns on me like, oh my God, I do this. So here's the deal. Here's an example. I play golf. Well, I might be playing with some guys that I don't know. And of course, I know that they're going to judge me on how well I play golf, right? Because they're worried about me. They're thinking about me constantly in the 4 hours that we're going to play this golf, right? They're not worried about their score, their swing. They're watching Ron, and they're going to judge Ron, and they're going to find out that I'm a piece of crap because that's who I am. That's what I think I am. And everybody's going to find out. So I cover it up by saying, I've done this 100 times. Man, I haven't touched a club in 2 weeks, right? So I make this comment, and those of you who are not golfers, here's how it works. So I'll have to explain it to y'all because I know you never have been involved in manipulation. So that means that if I do poorly, they're gonna have this attitude and this observation because I informed them before we started playing. Well, he hadn't done anything for 2 weeks. Of course, he's going to be rusty, right? And then if I do well, they'll think this guy's unbelievable. He's all rusty. He hadn't done anything. He hadn't touched the club in 2 weeks, and he played like that. It's like it's a no-lose situation. I cannot lose in this situation. Well, again, where is that in the first step? And this is why I enjoy going through this book in that meeting that I still go to. And I even do it with a small group of about 5 guys, and we go through this book. So this book allows me to ask questions of myself that I would never ask myself. And in fact, no one's going to ask me these questions. These are not questions that come up in conversation. These aren't questions that even come up with my sponsor. I mean, they're not phrased this way. So that's why this is my favorite tool. And I think, I recommend it to a lot of people that I talk to that I know are in ACA or in need of ACA. And it's really broken down it's broken through a lot of denial, honestly. And so for me, it's a very, very powerful tool. And with that, I'll close. Thank you. Thanks for asking me to speak.
Thanks for listening to our recording of the West County Speaker Series here in St. Louis, Missouri. For more information on meetings in the St. Louis area, visit www.acastl.org.